What we're really worried about is, and you've heard me say this all along, is the coming premium increases that are coming with a death spiraling healthcare system. That is my big concern. We just didn't quite get consensus today. What we have is a member-driven process to try and get consensus. We came very close, but we did not get that consensus. That's why I thought the wise thing to do is not proceed with a vote, but to pull the bill and see what we can do. But I don't think the law as it is fashioned or anything close to it is really going to be able to survive.
The House Republicans abruptly pulled their rewrite of America's health care law because they did not have the support necessary to get this thing passed. This House Speaker Ryan rushed to the White House to let President Trump know, hey, it's not looking good for us. So they went ahead and pulled the bill without having a vote on it. A lot of people are saying that this is to give the impression that there wasn't a huge loss here. That would have been quite embarrassing for House Speaker Ryan if they would have taken this to a vote and it would have been no, ultimately. So a lot of people are saying that this could be the optics. But this is just coming a day after President Trump delivered an ultimatum to lawmakers, kind of do or die. And he really put his support behind this bill, saying that he supported what Speaker Ryan put forward. And it's, now people are saying, does he not have the power to get things done? This is going to look bad in the future when you have such high stakes agenda items like tax reform and infrastructure spending. But I don't think that this is going to affect that. I don't think it means that he can't get people to work together or get people on his side. I think there were some real issues with this bill, and I think it's very smart of a lot of these Republican leaders to say, look, you're not going to ram this down our throat, down the people's throat. That's exactly what happened with Obamacare. We're putting new things into this bill at the midnight hour and saying, look, we got to pass it, and then we'll tell you what's in it. I mean, they literally were having this conversation in the media. So what this decision means is that the Affordable Care Act remains in place, at least for now, and this is going to be a GOP promise that's not fulfilled, at least just yet. But this article out of The Hill points out that in 2010, then House Minority Leader John Boehner was saying, have you read the bill? Have you read the reconciliation bill? Have you read the manager's amendment? Hell no, you haven't done it. And that's exactly what was happening today, last night, and all week with this current version of the healthcare bill. People were saying, we haven't seen the final bill and won't have a U.S. CBO score on the latest version before a vote. This is not regular order. We must have the opportunity to read and understand the final bill before we vote. It is irresponsible to do otherwise. So this is what a lot of us were saying. You're not going to do exactly what the Democrats did, where Nancy Pelosi came out and said, we've got to pass it to find out what was in it. They were saying, once the health care bill passes, lawmakers, they can really explain it to the American people. This was Representative Chris Collins. Are you kidding me? So when Drudge Report is reporting this, the fix is in. That they're saying the exact same thing that the Democrats were saying in the past. And this is basically what Steve Bannon is saying. Paul Ryan is a Ryan-O, and he represents the very global corporatist machine that we are wanting to drain from the swamp. So why are we allowing him to have his one big achievement as speaker? And I'm glad that this happened. I trust Rand Paul. Rand Paul was very outspoken against this, and he predicted that this would be the ultimate outcome. He predicted that Speaker Ryan would either pull the bill or it would get a no vote. He didn't think it would pass, and I do trust him. And I also kind of trust Steve Bannon, who went into this place saying that the American Health Care Act was written by the insurance industry. Of course, this is who Paul Ryan kind of works with. Steve Bannon has always been kind of waging war against Paul Ryan. Bannon said Ryan is the embodiment of the globalist, corporatist Republican elite. And so this failed bill, Breitbart is reporting, would be the best chance yet for Bannon to topple Ryan and then advance this nationalist, populist economic agenda. Publicly, Bannon has been working to help get this bill passed, but privately, he's been saying He's unhappy with the Ryan bill because it doesn't drive down costs. It was written by the insurance industry. Now, while this bill does strip away many of Obamacare's provisions, it doesn't go as far as what Bannon would like to see in deconstructing the administrative state in the realm of healthcare. So if it's written by the health insurance companies, and it's still basically saying the government is in total control of your health care. And we already know the outcome of that. Just look at the VA. It's a total debacle. So for now, it has not passed. President Trump is saying now we can pull together and have a more bipartisan bill put forward. I don't really know what's going to be the answer with that. It's just very interesting that, up to the midnight hour, he was saying, we've got to do this. This is going to be great. And then now today he's saying, I think this was a good thing that this wasn't passed. It'll give us a little more time to put something forward that's really good. We can be smart about this and not have to just rush to push it through. Now, something that we're waiting on, this potential smoking gun from the NSA and others, intelligence is going to be released, showing the Obama administration definitely spied on the Trump team. This intelligence is said to leave absolutely no doubt that the Obama administration, in its closing days, was using the cover of legitimate surveillance on foreign targets to spy on President-elect Trump. So there you go. Now, just putting it out there, this is something that we reported on weeks ago. The story was censored on Facebook. We were called fake news for it. And here, once again, not only President Trump, but also InfoWars being vindicated about being under surveillance. So Republican congressional investigators say they're expecting a potential smoking gun. This is going to be produced to the House Intelligence Committee, and the classified intelligence shows incidental collection of Trump team communications. These were purportedly seen by committee chairman Devin Nunes, and he actually dropped this bombshell in an impromptu Wednesday meeting there at Capitol Hill. And so this intelligence corroborated information about surveillance of the Trump team that was known to Nunes even before President Trump accused Obama of spying on him, wiretapping him in those now infamous tweets. So the key to the conclusion of the fact that this incidental surveillance did take place was the unmasking of selected U.S. persons whose names appeared in this intelligence. And the paper trail that's there leaves no other possible purpose for the unmasking of these people other than to sully the reputation of the incoming Trump administration, which is exactly what we reported, that there is this coup going on. The Obama administration was putting this information out there, dripping it around, letting it funnel to all these other agencies within the government so that everyone could have a tainted view, so they could all believe that they were bringing in some Russian operative was going to be the new president. Again, with absolutely no evidence, because Nunes was quick to point out that there was nothing in these collected conversations that had to do with Russia, but he said he felt that it was bad enough that President Trump needed to know what was being said about him and his transition team. And so not only did the Obama administration improperly gather, but they also disseminated this secret electronic communications. They unmasked the identity of Americans who were swept up in this foreign electronic spying. Now, Nunes said that perhaps it was legal how it all happened, but he doesn't know if the American people would be comfortable with what he's read. And Nunes also announced that the committee is going to be seeking to determine who knew about the classified reports, why they were not disclosed to Congress, and who requested and authorized the disclosure of the Americans' identities in the reports. That's going to be very interesting. Get to the bottom of it. Who is involved in this coup? Who is the one that's putting out this information and leaking and unmasking American citizens who were swept up? That should be classified. Somebody needs to go to jail. Somebody needs to get in trouble, and it needs to be someone very high up to really make a statement about what was done here and let people know that your little coup is done. So this is going to be according to several dozen intelligence reports that include transcripts of communications, including communications directly from Trump. And so there you go. He was spied on. But the media is probably not going to report that. They're going to spin it some way. They're not going to say, you know what, we were wrong. We're very sorry, President Trump, for making fun of you and And then we had Colbert come on and mock you with the microwave, and, oh, how could this even happen? Your microwave doesn't spy on you. They're not going to issue a retraction for that. They're just going to probably just move on to the next story that they can give wall-to-wall coverage. So now Nunes has said that he had a pretty good idea of what President-elect Trump was up to and what his transition team was up to and who they were meeting with based on what he was able to read. So they were collecting all of this information between November and January. So they were paying attention to what the transition team was up to. President Obama was very worried, of course, about protecting his legacy, the outgoing president. And you can see they were all very afraid, thinking, wow, he's going to get in there on day one and sign these executive orders, knocking out the TPP, etc. So they knew that they had to get acting fast to delegitimize his presidency. And that's exactly what we've seen happening. Now, the NSA has agreed to provide these additional reports. The FBI has not agreed to request or turn over anything, which is kind of interesting because Nunes said that he felt he had a duty and an obligation to tell Trump of the surveillance intel. He said he thinks the president should be able to look and see whether he thinks the collection was proper or not. And he also has called an impromptu press conference. He announced that he's going to call both the FBI director, James Comey, and NSA director Rogers before a closed session of the House Intelligence Committee to discuss topics which they couldn't answer in a public setting. A lot of people saying, well, wait a minute, did they lie under oath by saying that there was no surveillance happening of President Trump when clearly there was some incidental surveillance? So he is going to get them behind closed doors so that they can discuss whatever they're not allowed to say. Because as we saw, their FBI Director Comey said that he was not going to say anything about conversations that he had with former President Barack Obama. Very interesting there. So now the Daily Caller has got an exclusive report saying, is John Podesta actually the target of Russians' influence campaign? Very interesting here. So this is John Podesta. He was the national chairman of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign. He might have opened himself up to Russian influence designed to temper his views of the Kremlin. So influence campaigns are conducted by many governments, including the United States, and they aim to influence decision makers in other countries to realign their geopolitical worldviews more closely to the influencing country. And some national security experts are wondering if Podesta might still be a target of Russian influence because they're tracing the campaign back to his company board membership, in which 1/3 of the board members were top Russian businessmen with direct ties to the Kremlin. Very interesting. And the last time Podesta even spoke anything about Russia was December 18th, 2016. Since then, he's been strangely quiet. He hasn't said anything really about Russia. So people are saying, well, wait a minute, that's a little bit odd. And that's because now a lot of people, President Trump himself has tweeted out, well, what about Hillary Clinton's ties to Russia? What about, there's pictures with John Podesta and Chuck Schumer with Putin saying, well, why don't we just really trace everyone's connections? Very interesting stuff going on as usual there in the government. Now, a big story that a lot of people are seeing is getting very little coverage on the big three networks. There is the Rockville High School rape case, which is getting a total blackout on most of the big news. They're censoring this rape story because it involves 2 illegal immigrants. Now, Curtis Houck has written this story kind of pointing this out, comparing it to the Rolling Stone story, which was given more than 10 minutes over 2 days in the hoax UVA rape case, where there was the University of Virginia fraternity gang raped a female student. That was given coverage as well. A lot of media outlets covered that, but total silence here. Now, Fox News, James Rosen pointed out that the Maryland State House of Delegates had just approved a bill to make Maryland a sanctuary state, just days after the Maryland authorities charged these 2 immigrants with this rape. One of them confirmed to be here illegally. So this alleged rape of this 14-year-old girl. So of course this happens just a couple of days after, which is why the media is not going to report on the story, because just like we've seen here in Austin, Texas, someone here illegally raped a mother at knife point. but the news just called him an Austin man, and because they're trying to turn Austin into a sanctuary city, just like here in Maryland. And of course, if they give light to the story, a lot of people are not going to go on with this open border agenda, let all the refugees in, give all these illegal immigrants safe haven here in our cities. This one of the students that was actually here illegally was facing deportation for committing a crime, but they allowed him to stay in the high school where he then raped a 14-year-old girl. And this is someone who's almost 18, 19 years old in the 9th grade, and they don't even say why. So that right there is just a big, crazy mess. Tucker Carlson, Mr. Badass, actually slammed one of the Rockville rape defense lawyers who's defending one of these rapists, saying, are you sure that you've checked in with God, made sure you're on the right side of history here? And Kelly McBreen actually wrote this article kind of pointing out that seems to be a familiar position with these defense attorneys, because this is exactly what Hillary Clinton did when she was defending the rapist of 12-year-old Kathy Shelton. They both are trying to sully the reputation of the young girls who were raped. Very interesting.